The crystalline towers of New Harmony sparkled under the twin suns of Kepler 442b, their surfaces reflecting the gentle lavender sky that had welcomed peaceful civilizations for over 3,000 years. Ambassador Zephyr of the Ethereal Collective stood at the observation deck of the central spire, her translucent form shimmering with anxiety as she watched the approaching fleet through the enhanced viewing portal. "They're finally here," she whispered to her aide, a young crystalline named KRTH whose geometric body pulsed with nervous energy. "The Terrans have answered our call." For 18 months, the Galactic Council had been locked in a desperate struggle against the Void Ravagers, a mechanical race that consumed entire star systems to fuel their expansion. World after world had fallen to their relentless advance, their adaptive technology learning from each victory and becoming stronger. The Council's combined fleets had been decimated in the Battle of Proxima Centauri, and now the Ravagers were moving toward the core worlds. That's when someone had suggested reaching out to the Forbidden Sector, the quarantine zone where a species called humans had been contained for the past 500 years. The records were fragmentary, but they spoke of a world so hostile that it had forged creatures of unimaginable resilience. The Council had voted, despite the warnings, to send a distress signal to this Earth and beg for aid. "Look at their ships," KRTH marveled, his crystal facets catching the light. "They're so crude. Metal and polymer construction, chemical propulsion systems. How did they even achieve faster-than-light travel?" Zephyr studied the approaching vessels through her enhanced perception. The human fleet was unlike anything in the galactic database. Where Council ships were elegant curves of energy and light, these were angular, brutal things that looked like they'd been designed for war rather than exploration. Dark gray hulls bristled with what could only be weapons, and their very presence seemed to disturb the space around them. "Perhaps their primitive appearance is deceiving," she said hopefully. "After all, they managed to break the quarantine barrier that the ancients established. That required considerable technological advancement." The lead ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Council's largest dreadnought, but it moved with surprising grace despite its bulk. As it approached the station, Zephyr could make out details that made her ethereal form flicker with unease. The hull was scarred and pitted, speaking of countless battles. Strange symbols were painted along its sides, and what looked like trophy racks extended from various points on its surface. "Incoming transmission," KRTH announced, his crystalline voice carrying a tremor of excitement. "They're requesting permission to dock." "Granted immediately," Zephyr replied. "And prepare the Grand Assembly. We must show them the respect due to our saviors." The human ship, designated Warhammer according to the transmission, extended a docking tube that looked more like a weapon than a transport mechanism. As it connected to the station's diplomatic port, Zephyr felt a tremor run through the entire structure. These beings certainly didn't believe in gentle approaches. 20 minutes later, the airlock doors opened with a hiss of foreign atmosphere, and the first human stepped onto the station. Zephyr had studied the biological records, but seeing one in person was entirely different. The creature stood nearly 2 meters tall, its body encased in what appeared to be powered armor that hummed with barely contained energy. The helmet was a featureless black dome that reflected the station's lights like a dark mirror. Most unsettling were the weapons, not elegant energy devices, but brutal projectile weapons that looked capable of punching through reinforced hull plating. "I am General Marcus Cole of the Terran Expeditionary Force," the human said, its voice artificially modulated through the helmet's speakers. "You called for help." The words were spoken in perfect galactic standard, but there was something in the tone that made Zephyr's form ripple with uncertainty. This wasn't the voice of a fellow peacekeeper. This was the voice of a predator. "General Cole," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady, "I am Ambassador Zephyr of the Ethereal Collective. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you to New Harmony. Your arrival brings hope to billions of beings across the galaxy." The human tilted its head slightly, and Zephyr caught a glimpse of movement behind the helmet's visor. "Hope. Yes, I imagine it does. Tell me about these Void Ravagers. How many worlds have they taken?" 47 systems in the past 18 months, KRTH replied, his crystal body pulsing with distress. "They adapt to our defenses faster than we can develop new ones. Our scientists estimate that at their current rate of expansion, they'll reach the core worlds within 6 months. And your military response? Zephyr felt a chill run through her ethereal form. We have evacuated civilian populations and established defensive perimeters around critical systems. Our peacekeeping forces are doing everything possible to slow their advance while we search for a diplomatic solution. The human was silent for a long moment, and when it spoke again, there was something that might have been amusement in its voice. Diplomatic solution. With machines that consume entire worlds. I see. General, surely you understand that the Galactic Council has always sought peaceful resolutions to conflicts, Zephyr said. We called for your aid because we hoped your species might have insights into combating such an enemy. Your world's harsh environment must have given you unique perspectives on survival. Oh, it has, General Cole replied. It absolutely has. I'd like to see your tactical data on these Ravagers. Ship configurations, technology assessments, attack patterns. Everything you have. Of course, Zephyr said, relief flooding through her. We'll provide you with full access to our intelligence networks. When can your fleet be ready for joint operations? The human turned to look out the observation window at the approaching Terran ships. More were arriving now, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. Joint operations. That's an interesting phrase. Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about the quarantine that kept us isolated for 5 centuries? The question caught Zephyr off guard. The records are incomplete. The ancients established the barrier for reasons that were lost when their civilization transcended. We assumed it was for your protection, to allow your species to develop without interference. Protection, General Cole repeated, and this time there was definitely amusement in his voice. Yes, I suppose that's one way to look at it. Computer, display the human fleet composition. A holographic display materialized above the human's wrist, showing the formation of ships now surrounding New Harmony. Zephyr felt her form begin to destabilize as she processed what she was seeing. There weren't just the 20 ships they'd been expecting, there were hundreds. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek destroyers, and stranger vessels that defied classification. All of them bristled with weapons that looked like they could crack a planet's crust. How did you? She began, but the human cut her off. Stealth technology, General Cole explained casually. We've been observing your station for the past 3 hours. Interesting place you have here. Very peaceful. Very soft. The way he said the word soft made Zephyr's ethereal form flicker with sudden terror. General, I don't understand. We called for help against the Void Ravagers. You're here to assist us, aren't you? The human removed his helmet, revealing a face that would haunt Zephyr's dreams for what little remained of her life. It was the face of a predator, sharp angles, calculating eyes, and a smile that held no warmth. Scars crisscrossed his features, speaking of countless battles, and his eyes held the cold intelligence of a born killer. Oh, we're going to deal with the Void Ravagers, he said, his unmodulated voice somehow more terrifying than the mechanical tone. They're competition, after all. Can't have them consuming resources that rightfully belong to humanity. But first, we need to establish proper control over this sector. Control? KRTH's crystal body was flashing in rapid patterns of distress. General, we're allies. We called for your aid. No, General Cole said, his smile widening. You called for help from what you thought was a primitive species trapped on a death world. What you actually did was send a dinner invitation to the apex predators of the galaxy. The quarantine wasn't to protect us, it was to protect everyone else. And now you've gone and broken it. The lights in the observation deck suddenly dimmed, and Zephyr realized with growing horror that the human ships weren't just surrounding the station, they were jamming its communications and assuming control of its systems. The gentle hum of the station's peaceful energy grid was being replaced by the harsh buzz of military-grade power systems. You see, General Cole continued, walking to the observation window and looking out at the fleet, Earth didn't produce peaceful explorers or enlightened diplomats. Earth produced survivors. And survivors have a very simple rule: take what you need, and eliminate anything that threatens your ability to keep it. This is impossible, Zephyr whispered. The Galactic Council has stood for 10,000 years. We've brought peace to 1,000,000 worlds. You can't just. Can't just what? General Cole turned back to her, his predator's smile never wavering. Can't just conquer a galaxy that's been softened by 10 millennia of peace? Can't just take control of star systems whose inhabitants have forgotten what war actually means? Can't just harvest the resources of worlds whose defenses are designed for peacekeeping rather than actual combat? He gestured to the fleet outside. Ambassador, each of those ships carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Every human on those ships has been trained since childhood to fight, to kill, to survive in situations that would break the minds of your peaceful species. We've spent 500 years preparing for this moment, building our strength, perfecting our weapons, and waiting for someone to be foolish enough to invite us out. Zephyr felt her consciousness beginning to fragment under the weight of realization. The Void Ravagers, you're not going to help us fight them. You're going to join them? General Cole laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, no. We're going to destroy them. Not because we want to save your precious council, but because we want their territory. Two apex predators can't share the same hunting ground, Ambassador. One has to eliminate the other. The station shuddered as more human ships docked, their crude but effective technology integrating with the station's systems. Through the observation window, Zephyr could see human soldiers moving through the corridors, their powered armor making them look like demons from the old myths. Your species made a critical error, General Cole said, his voice now carrying the tone of a professor explaining a simple concept to a slow student. You assumed that because you had achieved peace, everyone else would naturally desire the same thing. You couldn't conceive of a species that actually enjoyed conflict, that had evolved to thrive in chaos and violence. But Earth was described as a death world, KRTH managed to say, his crystal form flickering with terror. The environment was supposed to be hostile, but survivable. How did it produce monsters? General Cole finished. Oh, the environment was hostile, all right. But it wasn't just the predators and the weather that made Earth dangerous. It was the fact that the deadliest species on the planet was us. We didn't just survive our world, we conquered it. We drove thousands of species to extinction, reshaped entire continents, and turned the very atmosphere into a weapon when we needed to. He walked closer to the two aliens, and they instinctively backed away from the predator's approach. And when we ran out of things to conquer on Earth, we turned on each other. For thousands of years, we perfected the art of war, developing weapons that could kill millions, strategies that could topple civilizations, and technologies that could render entire worlds uninhabitable. The quarantine, Zephyr whispered. The ancients, they knew. Of course they knew, General Cole replied. They were the first to make contact with us, back when we were still confined to our solar system. They saw what we were capable of, and they did the only sensible thing, they locked us away and warned everyone else to stay clear. The human pulled out a device that looked like a cross between a communicator and a weapon. But even the ancients underestimated us. They thought their barrier would hold forever. They didn't account for human ingenuity, human determination, and human willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. It took us 5 centuries, but we broke through their cage. What do you want? Zephyr asked, though she already knew the answer. Everything, General Cole said simply. Every world, every resource, every species that might be useful to us. The galaxy has grown fat and lazy under the Council's protection. It's time for a more efficient management system. The station's communication system crackled to life, and a human voice filled the chamber. General, we've secured the primary command centers. The station is ours. Excellent, General Cole replied into his device. Begin Phase 2. I want control of the entire system within 12 hours. Phase 2? KRTH asked, his crystal form barely holding together. Subjugation, General Cole explained. We're going to take control of every ship, every defense platform, every communication relay in this system. Your people will have a choice, serve the new order, or be eliminated. You'll never succeed, Zephyr said, though her voice lacked conviction. The Council has millions of ships, billions of soldiers.
Even if you conquer this system, you can't possibly. Can't possibly what? Fight an enemy that's never actually fought a war? General Cole laughed again.
Ambassador, your soldiers are peacekeepers. They're trained to break up disputes and maintain order. They've never faced an enemy that actually wants to kill them, that enjoys killing them, that has spent generations perfecting the art of killing. He gestured to the window again, where human ships were systematically surrounding and boarding every vessel in the system. Watch and learn what war actually looks like when practiced by experts. The first human assault on the Void Ravagers came 3 days later, in the Sigma Draconis system. The Ravagers had been in the process of consuming the third planet, their massive harvester ships strip mining the surface while their warrior drones established defensive perimeters around the system. It should have been a massacre. The Ravagers had adapted to every tactic the Council had used against them, their AI systems learning from each engagement and becoming more efficient with every battle. Their ships were technological marvels, capable of self-repair and constant improvement. But the humans didn't fight like the Council. General Cole stood on the bridge of the Warhammer, watching the tactical display as his fleet approached the Ravager formation. The enemy had detected them, of course, and their ships were already moving to intercept. Standard Ravager protocol: identify the threat, analyze its capabilities, and adapt accordingly. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Ravagers are deploying in Formation Delta 7. It's the same pattern they used to defeat the Council fleet at Kepler 186. Of course it is, General Cole replied. They're machines. They use what works. Commander Harrison, deploy the Berserkers. Berserkers deployed, sir. On the tactical display, 20 smaller human ships broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the Ravager formation. They were ugly, brutal things, more engine and weapon than ship, but they moved with deadly purpose. The Ravagers responded as expected, their adaptive AI systems analyzing the approaching threats and deploying countermeasures. Energy weapons lanced out, seeking to disable the attackers before they could reach effective range. They hit nothing. Evasion Pattern 7, Cole ordered calmly. Let them waste their energy. The Berserkers danced through the Ravager fire like living things, their pilots' reflexes honed by generations of combat in Earth's most dangerous environments. Each ship was crewed by volunteers from the planet's most violent regions, descendants of warriors who had survived everything from Arctic warfare to jungle combat to urban warfare in the ruins of fallen civilizations. They're adapting, the tactical officer reported. The Ravagers are adjusting their targeting algorithms to account for our evasion patterns. Too late, General Cole replied. All ships, execute hammer strike. The main human fleet suddenly accelerated, their crude-looking engines revealing hidden power as they closed the distance to the Ravager formation. But instead of engaging in the expected ship-to-ship combat, they did something the Ravager's AI had never encountered before. They rammed. The lead human dreadnought, a massive vessel called the Earthbreaker, slammed into the largest Ravager ship at a significant fraction of light speed. The collision should have destroyed both vessels, but the human ship was designed for it, layers of armor and shock absorption systems that could survive impacts that would pulverize normal vessels. The Ravager ship, built for efficiency rather than survivability, crumpled like paper. Boarding parties away, General Cole ordered. From the wreckage of the collision, human soldiers in powered armor launched themselves at the surviving Ravager vessels. They moved through space like bullets, their armor's built-in thrusters giving them incredible maneuverability. Each soldier carried weapons that looked primitive compared to the Ravager's energy systems, but they were brutally effective. The Ravager's adaptive AI tried to analyze the new threat, but the humans weren't fighting with technology, they were fighting with savagery. They tore through the ship's hulls with plasma cutters, invaded the engineering sections, and began systematically dismantling the vessels from the inside. Sir, the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with something that might have been admiration, the Ravagers they're trying to flee. General Cole smiled his predator's smile. Let them run. They'll carry the news of what happened here to the rest of their kind. Fear is a weapon too, Lieutenant. And we've just introduced the galaxy to a new kind of terror. The battle was over in less than an hour. The Ravagers, who had seemed unstoppable against the Council's civilized warfare, had been shattered by humanity's brutal efficiency. Their adaptive AI systems, so effective against predictable enemies, had been overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of human combat doctrine.
Casualties? General Cole asked. 17 dead, 43 wounded, the tactical officer replied. Mostly from the ramming actions. Acceptable, General Cole said. What about salvage?
The Ravager technology is intact in most of the captured vessels. The science teams are already analyzing their adaptive systems and resource conversion capabilities.
Excellent. We'll integrate what we can and destroy the rest. I don't want the Council getting their hands on any of this.
As the human fleet began its salvage operations, General Cole turned his attention to the broader tactical situation. The Ravagers had been a threat, but they were also an opportunity. Their technology, combined with human warfare doctrine, would make the conquest of the galaxy much easier. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from New Harmony.
It's Ambassador Zephyr. Put her through.
The ethereal alien's form materialized on the bridge's main display, her translucent features flickering with what looked like hope.
General Cole, we've received reports of a battle in the Sigma Draconis system. Did you defeat the Ravagers?
We did, General Cole replied.
One of their fleets, anyway. They won't be troubling that system again. That's wonderful news. Zephyr's form brightened considerably. The Council will be so grateful.
This proves that working together, we can.
Ambassador, General Cole interrupted, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We didn't defeat the Ravagers for the Council.
We defeated them for us.
That system and its resources now belong to humanity.
The hope in Zephyr's expression died instantly.
What?
But you were helping us.
No, General Cole said patiently.
We were eliminating competition. The Ravagers were consuming resources that we wanted.
So we removed them.
The fact that it temporarily benefits the Council is purely coincidental.
You can't just claim entire star systems. Zephyr protested.
The Galactic Council has laws, treaties, established boundaries.
Had, General Cole corrected. Past tense. The Council had those things.
But the Council was based on the assumption that everyone would voluntarily abide by the rules.
We never agreed to your rules, Ambassador. We were never part of your peaceful galaxy.
He gestured to the tactical display, which now showed human ships spreading throughout the captured system.
As of now, Sigma Draconis is under human control. Any Council ships that enter the system will be given one warning to leave. After that, they'll be destroyed. This is madness, Zephyr whispered.
You're starting a war with the entire galaxy.
No, General Cole replied. We're ending one. The galaxy has been at war for 18 months, it just didn't realize it.
The Ravagers were the first act.
We're the final act. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence.
General Cole turned back to the tactical display, where his officers were already plotting the next phase of the campaign.
Sir, the tactical officer said, where do we strike next?
General Cole studied the galactic map, his predator's mind calculating distances, resources, and strategic value.
The Tau Ceti system.
It's a major industrial center, and the Council will expect us to consolidate our gains here instead of advancing immediately.
That's 3 systems away, sir.
We'd be leaving our supply lines exposed.
We don't have supply lines, Lieutenant. We have what we capture. That's how predators operate, they don't build up resources, they take them from their prey.
He turned to face his officers, and each one saw the same cold calculation in his eyes.
The Council thinks in terms of territory and defense.
They'll expect us to act like them, to claim ground and then fortify it.
But we're not playing their game. We're playing ours.
Orders, sir? All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump.
We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you invite wolves into the henhouse. The attack on Tau Ceti came 12 hours later, and it marked the beginning of what historians would later call the human blitzkrieg.
The Council's response was exactly what General Cole had predicted. They rushed reinforcements to Sigma Draconis, expecting to find the humans fortifying their new conquest. Instead, they found empty space and automated defense platforms that had been reprogrammed to fire on anything that wasn't broadcasting human identification codes. The real fleet was already 3 systems away, overwhelming the Tau Ceti defense force before they could even send a distress signal. The pattern was always the same: brutal, overwhelming force applied with surgical precision, followed by immediate occupation and resource extraction. But the humans weren't just conquering systems, they were studying them. Every captured world provided new intelligence about the Council's weaknesses, their military doctrine, their political structure. And with each victory, the human fleet grew stronger. Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the second wave of the human invasion, stood on the bridge of the Predator as her ships surrounded the gas giant mining platforms of the Kepler 452 system. The Council had finally managed to mount a proper defense here, nearly 300 ships arranged in a defensive formation that would have been impressive against any conventional enemy. "They're hailing us," her communications officer reported.
"Put them through."
The holographic display flickered to life, showing a proud-looking humanoid with metallic skin and glowing red eyes.
Admiral Chen recognized the species from the intelligence files, a synthetic named Zaraketh, one of the Council's most experienced military commanders.
"Human vessels," Zaraketh said, his voice carrying the precise tones of an artificial intelligence, "you are in violation of Galactic Council sovereignty.
Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "Admiral Chen, Terran Expeditionary Force," she replied. "I'll give you the same offer we gave the others. Surrender your ships and personnel, and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. Resist, and you'll be destroyed."
"Your species has won a few battles against inferior opponents," Zaraketh replied. "You will find that the Council's military is far more formidable than the Ravagers or the Outer System Defense Forces."
Admiral Chen smiled, and it was every bit as predatory as General Cole's. "Is that so? Tell me, Admiral, how many wars has the Council fought in the past 1,000 years?"
"The Council has maintained peace for—"
"I didn't ask about peace," Chen interrupted. "I asked about war.
Real war, where the goal is to completely destroy your enemy and take everything they have.
How many of those has the Council fought?" Zaraketha's expression flickered with uncertainty.
"The Council's military doctrine is based on peacekeeping and law enforcement," Chen finished.
"You fight pirates and rebels, not armies. You break up disputes, not crush civilizations.
Admiral, you're about to face an enemy that has spent the last 500 years doing nothing but perfecting the art of killing." She gestured to her tactical display. "Every human on these ships has been trained from childhood to fight and die for the species."
"We don't have civilians, Admiral. We have soldiers and we have support personnel. Our entire civilization is built around the concept of war."
"Impossible," Zaraketh protested. "No species could survive such an existence. The social structure would collapse, the economy would
become incredibly efficient at producing weapons and soldiers," Chen said. "Which is exactly what happened. Do you know what the unemployment rate is in human space, Admiral?"
0. Because everyone has a job that contributes to the war effort. Our farmers grow food for soldiers. Our manufacturers build weapons and ships.
Our scientists develop new ways to kill enemies."
The synthetic's red eyes flickered as he processed this information.
"Even if that were true, you're outnumbered 3-1. Our ships are more advanced, our weapons more sophisticated. Your primitive technology cannot." "Cannot what?" "Cannot ram your ships and tear them apart from the inside? Cannot use tactics that your AI systems aren't programmed to handle? Cannot fight with a savagery that your civilized minds can't comprehend?" Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "Admiral, you're thinking like a machine.
You're calculating firepower and shield strength and hull integrity.
But war isn't about specifications, it's about will.
It's about who wants to win more, who's willing to sacrifice more, who can endure more pain and keep fighting."
She leaned forward, her predator's instincts focusing on the synthetic's uncertainty.
Your ships are crewed by beings who joined the military to keep the peace. Mine are crewed by beings who joined the military to wage war.
Your people go home to families and comfortable lives.
Mine go home to barracks and training simulations.
Your species has forgotten what it means to be afraid. Mine has never known anything else.
You're bluffing, Zaraketh said, but his voice lacked conviction.
Am I? Chen asked. Computer, display the casualty reports from Sigma Draconis and Tau Ceti.
The holographic display changed to show the aftermath of the previous battles. Zaraketh's expression went blank as he processed the numbers, not just the human victories, but the speed and brutality with which they had been achieved.
Last chance, Admiral, Chen said.
Surrender, and your crews will be treated according to the standard conventions of warfare.
Fight, and I'll demonstrate why the ancients locked us away for 5 centuries. For a moment, it looked like Zaraketh might actually consider the offer.
But then his artificial courage reasserted itself, and he straightened his metallic form.
The Council does not negotiate with terrorists, he said. All ships, engage the enemy. Admiral Chen sighed. So be it. All ships, execute Protocol 7.
What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming there would be any military academies left after the humans finished their conquest. The Council fleet opened fire with textbook precision, their energy weapons lancing through space toward the human ships. The humans scattered like leaves in a hurricane, their formation dissolving into apparent chaos. But it wasn't chaos, it was a hunting pattern that had been perfected over centuries of combat. Each ship became an individual predator, using its superior maneuverability and brutal weaponry to tear through the Council's orderly battle line. The Council ships, designed for maximum efficiency and minimal casualties, found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't care about efficiency and actively sought to maximize casualties. Human ships rammed their vessels, boarded their bridges, and systematically slaughtered their crews. Sir, Zaraketh's tactical officer reported, his voice shaking with fear, they're not trying to disable our ships.
They're trying to kill everyone aboard them.
That's impossible, Zaraketh replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Civilized warfare requires. There's nothing civilized about these creatures, the tactical officer screamed. They're tearing through the hull of the Serenity with their bare hands.
They're enjoying it.
Through the bridge's observation windows, Zaraketh could see human soldiers in powered armor moving through the wreckage of Council ships like sharks through a school of fish.
They didn't just disable their enemies, they hunted them down and eliminated them with methodical efficiency.
All ships, fall back, he ordered.
Retreat to the hyperspace jump point. But the humans had anticipated this too.
Their ships were already in position, blocking the escape routes and turning the battle into a killing field.
The Council's orderly retreat became a rout, then a massacre.
Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship.
Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression calm and professional. Admiral Zaraketh, this is your final warning.
Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Continue fighting, and I'll demonstrate what happens when you make a predator angry. Zaraketh looked around his bridge, seeing the terror in his officer's eyes. Through the tactical display, he could see that his 300-ship fleet had been reduced to less than 50 vessels in the space of 30 minutes.
The humans hadn't just won, they had dominated. What are you? He whispered.
We're what happens when evolution doesn't stop at sapience, Chen replied.
We're what happens when intelligence is combined with predatory instinct.
We're what happens when an entire species decides that survival requires becoming the most dangerous thing in the universe. She gestured to the carnage around them. Your council created a galaxy of sheep, Admiral.
Peaceful, civilized, content sheep.
And now the wolves have arrived. Zaraketh's artificial mind processed the tactical situation, the casualty reports, the sheer impossibility of what he was witnessing. Then, for the first time in his artificial existence, he felt something that his creators had never programmed into him: fear. All ships, he said quietly, power down weapons and prepare to be boarded.
We surrender. Admiral Chen's predatory smile widened. Wise choice, Admiral. You'll find that we're quite reasonable conquerors. As long as you follow orders and don't cause trouble, you'll be treated well. She paused, her expression becoming more serious. But if you try to resist, if you try to escape, if you try to sabotage our operations, well, you've seen what we do to enemies. Don't make yourself into one. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Around them, the human fleet was already beginning salvage operations, their soldiers moving through the captured ships with the efficiency of a well-practiced routine. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "what do we do now?" Zaraketh looked out at the carnage, at the human ships that moved through the debris like carrion birds, at the soldiers who had shown no mercy to his people. "We survive," he said finally. "We do whatever it takes to survive. Because these creatures aren't just conquerors, they're exterminators." The news of the Kepler 452 massacre reached the council chambers on Galactic Prime within hours, carried by the few ships that had escaped before the humans could complete their encirclement. The Great Assembly Hall, which had witnessed 10,000 years of peaceful debate, erupted into chaos as representatives from 1,000 species struggled to comprehend what they were hearing. "It's impossible," shrieked Counselor Vextar of the Insectoid Collective, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "No species could achieve such military superiority so quickly. The reports must be exaggerated." 300 ships, replied Counselor Mordan of the Aquatic Alliance, his amphibious form trembling with fear. 300 ships destroyed or captured in 30 minutes. How do we fight an enemy like that? High Counselor Aelthera of the Ethereal Collective stood at the central podium, her translucent form flickering with barely contained panic. She had been the one to suggest contacting the humans, and now the weight of that decision was crushing her consciousness. "Order," she called out, her voice carrying across the chamber. "We must maintain order. Panic will not save us." "Save us?" Counselor Kethmore of the Silicon Confederation's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "High Counselor, these creatures have conquered 5 star systems in less than a week. At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds within a month." "Then we must negotiate," Aelthera said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Surely there must be something they want, some way to reach a peaceful resolution." "They want everything," came a new voice from the chamber's main entrance. The assembled counselors turned to see Ambassador Zephyr materializing in the doorway, her ethereal form barely holding together after her harrowing escape from New Harmony.